Hey, how's it going everyone? It's me, it's Count Jinsula, and welcome to another raid guide video. Today we're going to be covering the fire and flying type legendary Pokemon Moltres. This is an iconic Pokemon and also one of the most useful out of the three legendary birds. You do not want to miss out on this raid boss, and fortunately it is a really easy raid boss to defeat. I'm going to be telling you how you can do that in today's video, so let's roll the intro and get right into it. Alrighty, let's talk about Moltres. So, this is a fire and flying type legendary Pokemon. It is one of the three legendary birds from the Kanto region, and it is probably one of the most powerful flying types or fire types that you can currently get. Something you should think about when it comes to Moltres is that it's going to be double weak against rock types, much like its ice type counterpart Articuno. Considering its flying and fire typing, it is going to be weak against electric types, water types, and of course, rock types. And because of the double weakness to rock types, I would say that you should focus in on bringing your best rock types to this Pokemon, much like you would against Articuno. Let's go over those counters right now. So first and foremost, you will want to bring Mega Aerodactyl if you happen to have it, and that is of course because it is a Mega Evolution, which means it's going to boost up all of the other rock types that are in your raid party. So if you have a Mega Aerodactyl, you should definitely bring it. You should also bolster your team with the typical rock types that you would bring to a boss like this. This includes Rampardos and Rhyperior. Both of those Pokemon are going to be extremely powerful, but unlike with Articuno, you will want to avoid bringing any Terrakion, and that is of course because it has the duo fighting typing, and fighting types are going to be weak against flying types, which is something you will want to watch out for, considering that Moltres does have very powerful flying type attacks. Moltres also has a plethora of resistances, which is something you need to keep in mind when you're going up against this boss. It resists attacks from bug types, grass types, fairy types, fighting types, fire types, ground types, and steel type attacks. Now, typically you wouldn't bring any of these types up against a flying or a fire type Pokemon to begin with, but considering that you would typically bring ground types to a fire type raid boss, this is something you do not want to do when it comes to Moltres, and that is of course because of the flying type that it also has. Rhyperior is going to be the exception here, and that is of course because it also has the rock typing, which is going to sort of neutralize those flying type attacks, and it's going to make it neutral damage as opposed to double effectiveness. Now let's say you do not have a good amount of rock types in your collection. Well, it is also weak against water types and electric types, so Pokemon like Raikou are going to be pretty effective, and as a budget Pokemon, you could possibly bring Electivire as well, considering that it is comparable to Raikou in terms of raid damage. But overall, I would focus in on bringing your best rock types, mainly because the rock type damage is just going to be substantially better than your electric types and your water types, and it really does come down to that double weakness. In the most ideal scenario, you and your raid mates will have a Mega Aerodactyl, and you will have a full team of Rampardos behind it. This is going to completely melt down Moltres in record time, so yeah, if you want to take down this boss easily, then you will want to invest in a whole bunch of rock types and bring them against this raid boss. Speaking of which, this boss is going to be on the easier end when it comes to legendary raid bosses. You will only need one or two other trainers as long as you are both level 40 and you have a full team of rock types in your arsenal. Moltres is considered a glass cannon, which means it's going to have pretty low defense stats even though it has really high attack stats. So you should be able to take it down no problem as long as you and your fellow trainers are well prepared. Taking down this boss comfortably will require about 4 trainers that are at least level 35, and of course that is assuming that everyone in the raid party is bringing their best rock types. But if you want to challenge yourself, you could do this with just one other trainer as long as both of you are level 40 and you're bringing a whole bunch of rock types, and of course if you have yourself any kind of boosts like weather boosts and friendship bonuses, that is definitely going to help you take down this boss with just one other trainer. Now Moltres is one of those raid bosses that is actually a bit future proof, and that is of course because it is one of the most powerful flying type attackers in the game, and it is a very decent fire type as well. It doesn't have the high TDO of a Pokemon like Entei or Reshiram, but it is going to be really strong as a glass cannon, so it is going to be a top pick in most raid battles, and that is something you should keep in mind when it comes to this boss. If you do not have yourself a really high IV Moltres yet, I highly suggest you do as many of these as you possibly can. And speaking of which, the perfect IVs is going to be 1980, and if it's weather boosted, it's going to be 2475. Moltres is weather boosted by two different kinds of weather boosts. It's going to be sunny weather and windy weather. But you will likely want to go up against Moltres when it is partly cloudy outside, and that is of course because that is going to boost up the attack damage of your rock type attacks. Now, if you happen to have a shadow version of Moltres, you will definitely want to max it out as much as possible, and that will require you to do a whole bunch of Moltres raids in order to collect all of the candies and XL candies as you possibly can in order to max it out. Thus, I would say that you should raid Moltres as much as you can whenever it is out, mainly because of just how valuable this Pokemon is. Even for the non-shadow versions, if you happen to have yourself a really high IV of this Pokemon, then you will definitely want to max it out as much as possible. And don't forget that Moltres is a legendary Pokemon that does have its shiny form released into the game. That is a shiny that you can get right now, and it's a pretty cool looking one as well. It's a pink version of this bird, and it's a pretty unique look. So if you do not have yourself a shiny of this Pokemon, you should do as many raids as you can until you get it, considering that Moltres is one of those Pokemon that doesn't make frequent appearances in this game, so whenever it is in raid battles, you should definitely prioritize it. I also really like the fact that this raid boss can be completed as a duo very easily, meaning this is a boss that you could farm up for a whole bunch of rare candies and rare candy XL if you're doing in-person raids, and that is something that you should not ignore. Bosses like this do not come often, so if you are able to two-man this boss with another friend, then you should spend a day doing as many of these as you possibly can, especially during a raid hour. Okay, so just to recap, this boss is extremely easy to defeat, but it is a boss that is extremely rewarding considering just how future-proof it is. So you should do as many of these as you possibly can, and if you are doing this boss, make sure you're bringing your best rock types, considering that it does have a double weakness to rock types. And yeah, that's going to be it for this raid guide. Let me know your thoughts regarding Moltres down below. Do you have yourself a really good Moltres? Is there a tip that I completely missed in this raid guide video? Definitely share that down below. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little bell so you stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, then do consider checking out the links in the description below. But yeah, that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.